Hello and welcome back to Pushing Technology to the Limit. Today I have a pretty cool video. It's something that's hardly talked about, and if it is talked about, it's very cloudy of what to do. So what is Zeroshell? It's a router, and I've been using it for a number of years now. I don't remember when I first started using it, but I started using the 3.2 version. They have a new one out that's 3.9. I'm not seeing the difference between the two versions really, except that the 9 has a lot more things in it that you can do as far as customizing, like ports and things. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself here. What to look at before getting yourself into this? So, I've looked at information on this Zeroshell, and there's a bunch of different options you can do, and I have installed it on two types of hardware. I've installed it on a laptop and a tower PC. And there's also the virtual option. If you are advanced enough that you can do virtual, I couldn't really explain what virtual is. It's just basically a computer and a computer using your host computer's networking infrastructure, whether it's the processor, network cards, video cards, etc. But we're not really getting into that today. If you want to know how to install it onto a computer, there are many resources out there of how to set this thing up so it runs perfectly. But since everybody has done that, I'm going to skip that point and get right to the good stuff. So, as far as hardware is concerned, what are you looking for? Well, when I did my computer, I got an old Pentium 4, and when I first started, I just left the used parts in it. And over time, it caused some issues. And so when you are planning to do something and you're going to get permanently set up, this is what I would do first. Now, if you're just limited budget and you're kind of just, a tinkerer and you want to, just kind of play around with something, that's all right. Just leave the parts in. But if you're trying to get something work, I would basically strip the system. And what do I mean by that? I mean that I would put if there's something wrong with it, I don't know. I would just kind of gut the system and go for brand new. So I would put a brand new power supply in, RAM, hard drive. I wouldn't really mess with the video card. The video, once you're done with installation, you really don't need the keyboard and monitor hooked up. But I leave it hooked up so I can just quickly access it. Other things that you should think about before getting into Zeroshell is what am I going to do with it? Yes, we're all going to access the internet. But how are you going to access the internet? And what advanced features do you want to put on this router? There are things that I will talk about that some of you will understand, some of you won't understand. I'll try to explain myself easy enough for you so you will understand. And right now I'm going to be talking about some more advanced things. You need equipment to do this. It's called Vlan, which that means is Virtual Local Area Network. And basically what a VLAN is just picture your switch. And that you have, let's just give a scenario of 10 VLANs. Well, you would need to have one router per VLAN. Well, scratch that, because you're going to have 10 routers, 10 power supplies, and 10, well, not 10, you're probably going to need 20 Ethernet cables, because you're going to need to supply your internet and your network switch, which that would take up 10 ports on your switch. So what a VLAN router does, which is what Zeroshell is, or any router for that matter, I'm not saying every router, but you gotta have a business class router. Like I have a Netgear small business router, and this Zeroshell really kicks butt when you get right down to it. There's things I can do with my Zeroshell that I cannot do with the small business class that I bought for $300. So on top of that, when you are looking at used, if you're looking at a system that is, well, let's just say, like I've said, Pentium 4, you're going to need to have good network cards. Now, stay away from the USB unless you want a laptop. Now, the only benefit with a laptop is that you can portable your router from here to there. But there are certain things, if you decide with an older laptop or a new laptop or newer, you don't want to just strip apart a brand new laptop unless you buy your own parts. But you want to make sure that you have a new network card, and the reason is for Vlan tagging. Now, what is Vlan tagging, you ask? And I know this is not really startup material, but this is kind of stuff that you should know about before actually getting into something like this. So Vlan tagging is what you do on your switch. And you tag your router and you untag your computer. Well, I have found that with the older network cards in these computers, they're not capable of Vlan tagging. Now the cards that I put in, whether they're PCI or PCI Express, now don't ask me or put comments of what are they. You got to know some things about computers. Look them up. I can't really explain. I don't even know what they mean. I just know the abbreviations. So you need to look up either whatever your computer is. If it's look up your model on the internet and find out what are inside your computer. The options, whether it's PCI or PCI Express. If you got SATA and different things. Well, SATA has nothing to do with networking, but with any new card that you get, and I would stick with name brand like Linksys, D-Link, whatever else is out there. There's a few off-brand ones. I would not recommend the off-brand ones. If you want something to work, going cheap on a network card is not the best way to go. If you're going to use this for your main router, which is what I'm trying to do, you want to have some good parts inside and a good hard drive. Now, I'm not sure how long a hard drive will last, but when it's running 24 hours a day, it soon will die, which is not uncommon. That stuff happens like that. So, with laptops, the USB cards, they're not good enough. I mean, they're basically just for access point if you are on the run or you need a spare tire. Like you're using one on your laptop but then you need to access another network. A USB will do just fine. But really those are not meant for permanent use. I have used them, but they've conked out too. And it took me so much time to figure out what was going on and finding out that it was a network card, the USB network card, that died. So I'm going to be showing you eventually here my screen and how to set up Zeroshell. And like I said, this will be kind of basic and some advanced. And there's some things that you need to know about what to turn on because there's some things that are off. If you want to know what I've got set up, and if you've never seen my setup, I'm going to show you that right now. And then we will get to the screen. So here I am in the basement, and this is where all the brains of my operation takes place. So let me show you what I've got running. I got a couple Zeroshells running. One's testing, and one is I'm using right now in my network. Now it's kind of hard to see here, but to start out, we've got 3 DSL modems, and they're running about 7 megs down and 768 kilobytes up. And I also have a router in this shelf here, and this is my other business class router, and I got a TP-Link load balancing router back here. Now, what I'm hoping to do with this Zeroshell is to remove this unit and my TP-Link and just use one Zeroshell for my load balancing router. Now, whether it will work or not, I'm not sure just yet, but we're working on that as we speak. Right here is my test laptop, and we're using version 3.9. And like I said, there are USB cards, which I don't really care about, but for testing purposes, this will work. And I'm just using the USB cards for internet. And down here on my bottom shelf, I've got two other computers that are basically the same age. One's a router host, which I can use different virtual routers and different things like that, or I can just put a new hard drive in and just use it as a Zeroshell or another Linux router. And the one on the right is the Zeroshell, and that one's running our network right now. And the one thing I should let you know that I didn't mention in my control room is that I have shut off these CD drives. So once I've installed the operating system, I just shut the CD-ROM right down so it doesn't burn it up. You don't need the CD-ROM once it's all installed and running. Now it's a little bit hard to see here, but I've got 3 network cards installed. I've only got 2 cables right now plugged in, and then I have also USB. And this computer right here, like what I was saying about upstairs about the older computers, the network cards work fine that are internal, but the ones that are built in that came with this computer do not do Vlan tagging. And I think you can almost see that's unplugged right over there. It's kind of hard. Let me point. Right in here is the internal network card, and there's nothing plugged in. They really can't use it. The other thing I should warn you about is new monitors. If you have an HDMI monitor like I have found that like the ones that the computers I'm having right now, the older ones, they do not have HDMI. So I use an HDMI to VGA converter to convert my VGA to HDMI. Does not work. And the only way that I have been able to switch it to HDMI is to hop through some hoops. So let me show you that piece of equipment I've got to make this thing work on my HD monitor. And well, it's basically it really is. It's just a TV set, but I'm using it for my computer monitor. So I've got this VGA converter to S or RCA. Then from there I take it to a HDMI converter, which converts composite video to HDMI, which works, but it's a lot of hoops just to get your display on your HD TV or your monitor, whatever monitor you have. Whether if you have a computer monitor that is HD now, I don't have an HD PC monitor, so I really can't tell you if the HDMI would work for that or not, but I'm sure there's something to do with the boxes, that it just does not like the Linux output. Well, this unit will accept the Linux output and display it on my screen. First thing that you want to do is set your network card to the IP address of the router. So my network card has been statically assigned to 192.168.0.2. Now when you now mine's set, so I don't need to click OK because it's all done. I've already got the page up, but the page is right here, 192.168.0.75, and when you hit return, this is the page you get. So to get in, the default username is admin, and then the password is just Zeroshell. And this is the the page that you see when it first comes up, and familiar yourself with everything. Let me show you some of the things that are here. This is your package manager. What that is, if you have a license key, you can add updates and different things like Squid and Dan's Guardian, web filtering thing, and then there's simple network management protocol. Basically what that is if you've got a program like 10 Strikes bandwidth monitor, you can read the traffic that's coming in and out of your router. Now, I don't really think that's really needful, because if you have a smart switch, or in technical terms a managed switch from whatever company I chose, Netgear, you can just click on the port you want to manage, and then you can see the information that's coming to and from that port. So this is your, let's see here. Okay, so we're in packages. So here's the profile, and I'm just going to get you started here, and this is where you create your disk, and we need to do that because by default this number up here, is not HTTPS yet. So if you don't make a partition on your hard drive, whether it's a hard drive or a flash stick, then nothing will be saved. So it's pointless to go on. But we'll get back to that. This is your network. The Ethernet 00 is the laptop interface, and then the Ethernet 1 and 2 are my Ethernet ports for my modem, and we will be setting them up as we go along too. And then here's your gateway and NAT, DNS, and new VPN, new bridge, or new bond, or new PPOE, or 3G modem. Now, this will set up your internet, and we'll get along with that. Some of that I'm not going to be setting up this one at all, or this, because my modem is bridged, so it will just give the router an IP address. So let's go and create a profile and get that activated. So what you do is you just click here, and then new partition. Now mine always opens up on the opposite side of the screen, so I gotta drag it over. Let's see here. Now it's asking me what I want to do. I can create any size gigabit I want. I can use the whole thing. I'm not sure what. Oh, we have 80 gigabytes, so I can just say like I'll just do 80. 80 gigabytes. Make my label. And then create partition. Now this is a one that's already been installed previously, so I took out all the partitions just to show you how to do that, but there's a confirmation code that will pop up. What I do is I just copy it and then just paste it in there. And now you create profile. Okay, so now here we are. Now we can create our profile. And just drag this back over. So just create a name. Like I can do test. Now if you have a website, or you can use an existing website from wherever on the internet, I would not remove Zeroshell at all. I would just replace this right here. And what I'm going to do is do one of my websites that go back to forward back pushing technology to the limit, which would just be Warn Live. And then I do the same thing here, except that I hit the caps lock, so I don't have to keep holding that thing down. And I removed the caps lock. And then you can choose your password. I'm just going to use Zeroshell. And then just re-enter that again. So here is where you need to create your IP address. I also recommend you make your default gateway at the same time. I'm just going to copy this. Well, wait a minute. Let me just... I'm going to make up an address for it. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make my router 192.254.254.2 just so I don't have to remember what number I'm at. So anyways, I'll just copy this and then I will hit paste. So this is going to be my IP address that I access the router from, and then this is going to be the gateway address. So when I hit create, then I gotta reboot my computer. Now some people call this a box. Well, you can call it a box, but a box I think of as something that's cardboard and that's it. But this is a computer. So I'm gonna hit create, and then it will make another profile, and here we are. So I'm going to reboot the system. I'm going to actually activate it, and then it'll take a few minutes to reboot. So it brings up, I don't know why it brings up this other window on my other screen here, but anyways, it just gives you what everything is, and you can go to netinfo, which will give you the IP address of your router. So I can just copy that to just have it on hand. I can just paste it in my browser. Then I just click activate, and then it will reboot, and I'll throw the address in. So in the meantime, while it's rebooting, I want to change my IP address to the number of the router. There we go, and click OK. Open up another tab. Now I can click paste and go. Now it will say HTTPS instead of just the port 80, because I'm not sure why it does that, but all you gotta do is just go to advanced, add exception. Yes, I want to do that. Now you just go back and type. Since my admin is already there, I can just go in and just type in my password. Click remember. That's if you want it to remember. Now it's looking for internet, but there is none set up just yet. So what you want to do is go to your router and make an address. So here is the default gateway. Now I have my IP addresses all set up for my modems that I'm going to be using. So these are my test IP modems, and I just have to put these in. So I'm going to be using this one. Now to get this to work properly, you click add. Let me drag this over. and then I'm just gonna just right click it and paste it in there. But you don't want the .1. You want .0, or it will not work. Now you want your gateway as your default gateway of this router. So this is the default gateway, and let's see here. Make that. I don't know what metric is. Don't ask me, but I can make it 1 or I can make it 0. So here, if it was not working, it would be it wouldn't even allow you to enter it if it was not the right one. Let's see here. Okay, I just double check the IP address, and then I go back to my other modem and do the same thing. So this is all preparing your modems for the internet. Now what you want to do is, now I'm kind of going in reverse. I don't have, it just depends on which way you want to do it, but I'm just going to keep going the way I'm going and turn this on. And in fact, well, before I get to this, let me just show you some other things. There's some other things that are in this router, like the VPN. There's some other things that will not work unless these are enabled. So I guess one of the things that I would first do is just go down through and enable anything that is disabled, and just look at the status of different things. Now, it doesn't need to be on just yet, for the fact that if you don't have any network set up, it's not going to work. So, I mean, if you want to set up other ones, let's see here. I'm not sure what this thing does, this radius. I have not explored everything of what it will do. Let's see here. Okay, so that's actually, I didn't have to hit save. All right. I'll just hit accounting. Just get all this stuff fired up, and then if anything you don't need, or now, like captive portal is for wireless or even wired clients. I'm probably not going to use it. I've tested it. Don't care. Let me get back onto the networking, getting your modem set up. So add your modems now. So like I'm going to take this modem and let's see here. I'm going to put the IP address in. Now I'm going to leave the gateway of my modem like that. Just the 192.122.123.1. I'll leave this blank. I don't need to fill this. But here, if you have, now I'm not sure if this will work. I have not figured it out just yet. But a bunch of the information that I've read is the weight is the speed of the connection. I don't know. But like I can say it's 6 because that's what I'm using. And then I can just type in modem 1. And hit save. And I can go to modem 2. Now see, right now it says no link because we have not added the IP addresses on the interfaces. So, but let's just get this paste in here. So now what I'm going to do is go over to Setup, Networking, and I'm going to make Ethernet 1, add an IP address. So let me get back to my modem here. Now I'm just going to paste this in. But the one thing you want to do is set an IP address that does not coincide with your modem router's IP address. Now, a modem router would mean is that it could either be the modem's IP address or it could be the router. You can actually use a router. I have my load balancing router connected up to one of them. And then I can just click OK. And come down to Ethernet 2 and make sure that the correct IP address is with the correct network card, or it just won't work. So now I can just paste that and do 2. Okay, so this is all configured properly. Now what you want to do is come up to NAT and select your interfaces that you want to have internet on. So I'm going to do 1 and 2. Now when you come over to your net balancer, I'm not sure why these say fault, but they should say active. Let's see something here. See if and this I use this little pane here to check the internet to make sure that it's actually up and running, which is taking too long, and yep, see it's not connected. So I need to do some other configuration and just double check my my connections here. Okay, so I finally figured out what was wrong. This metric here, you don't want to have every one of these 0. So what I've done is I've done the first one as 1 and the second modem as 2. So now when I come over to the net balancer, it says active and there's no faults. So now everything is working, and it says none errors occurred. So when I go to setup again, it'll show that it's actually having internet. So you know that the internet is working. And now you can go on to networking, and you can set up whatever it is that you want to set. Like for those advanced users, you're going to want to do like VLANs. Like I said, VLANs is virtual local area networks. And all you have to do is just click on Create VLAN. I'll drag my box over here. So like I can type in number 7, and I can do that as my test network. And then I can hit OK. And this is just basically just, you know, very easy. I mean, I can add IPs. I can add as many as I want to any interface. And so I can do, let's see here. So I can do 192.234.234.234 for one of my routers for my test setup. So now that's all you have to do. Let me see here. Let me get my other system here going. Now let's just check our settings. Okay, I'm checking it, and Ethernet 1 and 2 are all set. You just close that. And now you can go to your switch. Now all you have to do to make your VLAN work is go to your switch, whatever switch it is that you have, and set VLAN 7. And I've got test. So this IP address needs to will be tagged on your switch. So what I've done here is I've got a bunch of VLANs already on my switch. So I've got this testing network, which is the one that we're using. Is not labeled the same as the router over here, where it just says VLAN 7 test, but that still is the same. So all I have to do is go into advanced and then click on VLAN membership, and all I have to do is go down to 7, and then I am on port 3 for my test computer. So I have that untagged, and I have 38 where the test router is located tagged. So that will communicate. Now if we go over to my my test computer here, and I just open up a Firefox, and I can go to Google, or I can just do a search like let's see here. I can go to do weather for a town next to me, actually a city. So it's Syracuse is 62 degrees. So, and I can do a speed test, just so that you know that this computer is communicating. Now there is no DHCP enabled on this yet. So what I did is I set a static IP address for this system. And basically I did it like I did my host, except that my test network is 192.34.234.234.2, and then the router is what I set over here on this tab here. So that's right here. So this is the IP address, and this is the router IP address right here. And then I set the DNS to be the router. So I'm set, and I don't need to go any farther than that. But then I can just do a speed test on this connection. And I'm not getting too bad. I mean, that's basically what I'm getting is about 6 megs down and nothing hardly up. But when I got all 3 modems combined together, I'm getting pretty good stinking speed. Now that's the next challenge on one of my other videos, is to figure out how to actually make the speed at whatever it is that all 3 are together, whether it's 19 megabits down and 1 or 2 megabytes up. So I can do a speed check that way, and that's not bad. But I've got 2 DSL modems here, which is this one and that one. Now I'm only getting one or the other modems. I don't know which one that is, and that I have not figured out just yet. But this is basically just how you set up your network, and you don't have to use VLANs. Like mine is advanced, so I can use VLANs, and you need a switch, like I said, and that's what I showed you over here. This is my Netgear switch, and the other thing that you have to do when you set your VLAN here, which I didn't say anything about, is that you need to come over to your ports and set your VLAN port number here, so that coincides with your VLAN. And then that way that computer only has access to that VLAN unless you want it to access others, which that's a little more of a setting than I'm going to get into here. Anyhow, that's what you do on your switch and your, let's see here, I need to get my tab over here, and on your Zeroshell. So basically everything is running right now. And then if you want to, you don't, like I said, you don't need VLANs. You can just keep adding IP addresses to this Ethernet card. So if you want to do your main network, there, this is what most people's networks are, is the 192.168.1.1. So I can create that. And then you would just, if you had a switch that was a managed switch, you would just use this as untagged. And then all machines would be able to see this IP address and this IP address. And they would be able to log into the router and configure if they wanted to, if they had the admin account. One thing I want to show you that I forgot to talk about is, so if you want just simplicity, I mean, the stuff that I went through was extreme for if you got 2 modems. But just say for you that have 1 modem and you don't want really to mess with all those settings, well, there's a solution for you too. So like I'm just going to remove this IP address. Well, let me just copy it so I can actually put it back in when I'm done, because I'm going to go back through and do some more testing when I'm done with this video. I'm just going to remove the IP address. And so just say, you know, you only have 1 modem and this one's not even running, so you can just, you know, it would be said no link if I had nothing there. But so that one's down. I can go to DHC or Dynamic, which basically is DHCP. Let me drag that thing over here. Okay. So yeah, so it says DHCP client status disabled. If I enable it like that, then you're all set. Once it gets in there, now it collects the IP address from your modem or router that you have installed on that Ethernet port. So that's just very simple to get yourself going. And there's a lot of easy things you can do with this without being advanced. So you want to set your DHCP for your client computers, whether it's wireless or wired. So all you have to do is go down to DHCP, click on it. Now it will tell you that it's off. All you have to do is select, actually click New, and select the drop down box. So you can actually select your default IP address, and then anybody that's on your network card, if you don't have a smart switch, can access and get your computer or smartphone or iPad can get a IP address without having to set it statically. So I'm going to just set that one, and here is what you need to do is copy. Well, you can type it if you want, but I prefer to just use right click and then hit Control V on my keyboard. So I'll do .1 for the start address, and then let's see here. Whoops. Let's see here. I need to write all that other stuff out. Okay, so now I got so .1 and .253. We don't want to have an IP address on the router. So you can leave all this alone if you want. You can change it if you want, if you'd like to. I haven't really seen need to do so. Then I can just click Save. And so like we go over here to Network, and you're saying, okay, well, I got that one where I can get IP addresses from, but what about my VLAN? Well, don't worry about it. It's the same procedure as the last one. So you just click New and drop down the box and look for Vlan 7. So that's and then you click OK. Do the same thing you did before, and now this one is going to be a little bit different for the fact that it's a .34 range, and I didn't put it. It's kind of in the middle of everything. So you want to do 33 so you don't go over your router. You can also make another range so that you can just go past that .34, but I'm not going to. So all I have to do is just click Save, and we're all set there. And you go over to your computer. So I have my network card statically assigned, and all I have to do is go into the properties and change that. So I can just tell it to obtain IP address automatically, and I click OK. Down here in the corner it is looking for an IP address, and there it is. It came right up. So let's just check it and see what's going on. Okay, so it set the router and an IP address. So now what if you didn't have your IP address or your DHCP enabled on your router? So this is what would happen. I'm just going to go to my control panel, and I am going to disable this network card. Then I'm going to come back over to my Zeroshell, and I'll just say, well, I guess I don't want that anymore, and just remove it and click Save. So now when I come back to my computer, try to get back on, it won't find anything. So I can just double click this window so you can actually see it trying to acquire an address, and eventually it will just say cannot do. I mean, it doesn't say that, but in my words it does. Okay, so now you can see where it's giving you a warning that it's limited or no connectivity. That's because I shut off the DHCP over here. So if I don't have to go through it again, but you can always rewind and fast forward this video to sections that you need help with, and just replay it. So that's basically how you would get an IP address to go on a VLAN or your default network. So this network here is my default, so anybody that just connects to it would work, and through that 00 Ethernet card over here. So this one will get an IP address automatically. This one would not, because it's not set up. Same way with this one. I can set it up, or I can choose not to. Then that way, anybody that gets on my network and I didn't give them prior authorization to be on my network wirelessly, they cannot get an IP address unless they absolutely know what my network address is. They won't be able to gain network access or internet. So that's how you set your DHCP for your computer clients. So now you've got that set up. Now what about Captive Portal? So that's kind of a whole nother thing, and I'll just kind of quickly go over that and activate it, and then I can set interface to be VLAN 7. So then I can just hit save, And then what you want to do is go over to users and create another account. So you just click add, and I'll just put test. And I'll make that, well, I don't know what to do with the rest of this, but I can just make test 1, 2, 3. And confirm it. Put your name in. And then I can do my email, which I'm not going to put any valid email in. And then I can just hit add. Or actually submit. Excuse me. You just hit submit. Well, it doesn't want me to use the same password. So I'm just going to use 1, 2, 3 test. And hit submit. So I'm not sure what this whole thing is here. I'm not sure. But anyways, that's in. And you go back to your users, and then you have test 1, 2, 3. So if I go back over to my let's see here. Alright, my test machine. Get out of my internet, or my Firefox here. And so I can try going to a website. Now it says login to network, so then I need to open the login page. Oops. Now I can access that and click remember. Now I can go to Google and do whatever I want. So now I can log into Facebook if I want to. So basically what this does is it brings up a little window here that shows your username and the amount of time that you've been on it and the traffic. And if you set up cost, which is in a, I guess that's European symbols, you can set up time restraints. So you can tell your guests you only got 1 hour. If they paid for one thing, you can give them 1 hour of internet on your access point. So basically that's what that does. And I can just close out of this. And that's really all you do to get yourself going. Now there's a bunch of other things that you can do, which I'm not going to go into this one, but there's like QoS, which there's some things that you need to do a little more advanced with that, and that's another video. And then there's VPN stuff, which I'm not going to be using VPN, so don't expect any videos from there. The other thing that you can do is, like my modems, like I said, I don't need to use the PPOE because the way I've got them set up. But I can create a bridge. Let me bring over the bridge window. This will be further videos. I just want to give you a preview of what I'm going to do. And I can bridge the connections, so I use Ethernet 0, 1, and 2. And then title it, and then I can start doing QoS. But that's a whole nother video. So that's how you just get yourself basically up and running, and everything's all set. But if you want to do some more advanced stuff, there's a lot that's unexplored in this this system here, and it's a nice unit. I'm not sure of his name that put this thing together, but he's very generous for letting us use it for free. And like I said, you can, if you go over to the packages here, you would have to activate it, and like this one does not have any activation whatsoever. So I would have to get an activation key if I want to do some packages. Anyhow, that's all you have to do, like I said, to get yourself going. And then there's a whole nother thing that you can do is the firewall. There's a lot of interesting stuff that you can do to your network or your modem. Like I can add something here and then block certain services on my modem. And this, like I said, is a whole nother episode. But I just wanted to show you this, that how you would set this up. But you can just select your source and then do whatever you want, whether accept it, then you set different things over here. But like I said, that'll have to be a whole nother video. This is something else that you can do. You can enable it, and then I'll have to get to that in another video. But it's a pretty nice router, and I have had no problems with this thing running for free. I mean, there's a lot of other things I've tested, and they just stink after using them for so many periods of time. It just runs out, or I don't know what. But this guy, I appreciate his operating system because it saved me tons of money from having to go buy another router. All I had to do was put some more parts in, and away I keep going. I hope this helped you get your router going quite easily for the first time. And I'm still learning as I'm going along. Like I said quite long ago, that I haven't really harnessed the power of Zeroshell. And now I'm going to be, and I'm going to be sharing what I find with you folks. So stick around, and if you are not subscribed to the channel, subscribe, and then you'll get the updates as they come along. And I do a lot of other videos besides the Zeroshell router. There's a whole slew of networking videos that I've done for you. I can't really go through all that right now, but you just look it up on my channel and just browse what's there. I've done reviews and different things, and so I'm hoping to in the next few videos to mess with the Squid Guard and see how well that works. I've had Squid Guard in the past with like IP Cop and Smooth Wall and different things like that. They work okay, but I've had to have 5 different routers to do different things that I would like to have, which I'm hoping to have Zeroshell to be a replacement for all 5 and knock it down to 1 or 2 Zeroshells at least, because I need to have 1 unfiltered and 1 filtered. I don't probably need that really. I'm not sure how well. I mean, I've had success and not success. But there's other advanced features that I can't really go into this video, but there's some amazing things that I have found out with Zeroshell you can do with like advertising servers. But that's a whole other video, and I can't really describe about that until I get to that point. So I hope you subscribe, and I'll see you the next time on Pushing Technology to the Limit, and have a great day. Enjoy your Zeroshell router.